I'll be mean here. It's like we've got Uber, Nvidia, Foxconn, and Stellantis. I don't want to say which one I think might be the weak link in that group. Hello and welcome back to the Plugged In Podcast, a weekly news show all about the future of transportation. I'm Patrick George, editor-in-chief of InsideEVs.
And I'm Tim Levin, senior editor at InsideEVs. On this week's show, Japan's big auto show is underway, and the Toyota Corolla is going electric, and also not electric. We'll explain what that means in a sec. Slate Auto also has a new plan to service its electric trucks, and Lucid is getting deep into the driverless car race with the help of Nvidia. But first, Patrick, how are things? How you doing, man?
I'm Tim. I'm good, man. The Japan Mobility Show is happening right now, and as you could probably tell, and our viewers on YouTube might be able to tell, I'm not there. I'm not
I
mad
thought you
about
constructed an exact replica of your office in Japan. That's
Yeah,
kind of what I was thinking.
well, you're okay. You're right. You've got me. When I was in Japan, I bought a telepresence robot, and it now does most of my work for me. Which it turns out was less than I thought it was. So it's a pretty low lift for the robot. No, man. I wish I was there. I was at the show 2 years ago, and that was just like a really rapid fire thing. It was my first time in Japan. I'm definitely not feeling a bunch of FOMO seeing my industry colleagues like post on Instagram all the stuff that's going on there. But can't win them all. Can't win them all. We still got to send you over there, man. It's a blast to visit and cover that country.
Yeah, I would love to go. Sign me up. 2020,
Yeah.
next one. When's the next show? 2027?
2027, actually. It's
Yeah.
biannual. Maybe we'll plan for that one, but maybe we can get you there a little sooner. And I'll send you over my shopping list of rare whiskey, watches, City Pop on vinyl, Gundam figurines. You'll need to book a couple of extra days to get it all, but it'll be worth it for me.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Before we talk about the mobility show itself, I think we should set the mood a little bit with some music.
What'd you have in mind that won't get us copyright striked on YouTube, Patrick?
Oh, a little thing called the official Future Cars song from the Japan Mobility Show. This one's a banger, folks. Let's fire it up.
乗り物集まれいろんな車どんどん出てこい未来の車小さく畳んで運べるモバイルバイク宇宙で活躍月面ローバーどこへも飛び立て空飛ぶクルー
And there we go. Isn't that great? What'd you think?
Yeah, that's catchy. Why don't we have culture like that in America, Patrick? There would never be an LA Auto Show song, or at least not one that good.
It would be so grating, and it would have none of the charm as that. And like from the approximately like 2% of the Japanese in that song that I could understand, it's literally about what they say it is. It's all kinds of future cars and bikes and lunar rovers and flying cars and like a worker robot that's attached to a cherry picker truck.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, it's the future, man. All right, now that we have that out of the way, that important business, let's talk about some cars. And this is the big auto show that the Japanese auto industry has every 2 years. Last one I was at was all about EVs. So specifically about how Japan Inc. was gonna get ahead on EVs after being kind of smoked by the rest of the world a little bit.
Yeah, I remember that one because that's when I was getting hired here, and it was like, oh, Patrick can't get back to you for like a week or two because he's in Japan. That I was waiting for you to get back.
That makes me sound so much cooler than I am. Also, just yeah,
Yeah, I've kind of got that impression too. It's all been
fair. Fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So I may be stating the obvious here, but we should give some context about Japan and its kind of place in the EV world. The modern EV revolution started with Tesla. Then the Chinese automakers kind of ran with that playbook, and now we know where they are right now, ahead of almost everybody. You also had Ford, GM, Volkswagen, and a bunch of new startups making big promises about this electric future, rolling out new models. And throughout all of that, over the last like 5-10 years, the Japanese automakers were some of the most reluctant to go fully electric, right? Even though
Yeah.
the Nissan Leaf was really a pioneer here just as much as something like a Tesla Model S was. And one of the biggest ones that people have been kind of keeping their eye on, obviously, is Toyota, right? This is the world's biggest automaker by volume. And it's always said it only expects EVs to make up a pretty small percentage of total global sales, or at least not the like 100% that a lot of these other automakers have been talking about. So Japan's automakers, Toyota included, have decided to focus mostly on hybrids instead, even betting on hydrogen. But as a country, they've been kind of behind on software and also on all electric vehicles. So that's kind of the backstory. If 2023, when you were there, was kind of all about the Japanese catching up on EVs, catching up on technology, what do we know about the vibe from this year's auto show?
Yeah, a lot of really great designs, a lot of really like future-facing stuff, flying cars. It's a huge motorcycle and scooter country too. But when it comes to power and propulsion, powertrains, the vibe is we don't know. It really there were like a lot of concepts out from all the different Japanese OEMs, but very few like direct commitments on what's going to power these cars. Which is like kind of last time I was there they were pretty explicit about them, but like Toyota, Lexus, Honda, Mazda reps all claim to our correspondent who was on the ground that they have no clear idea yet of what's going to power a lot of those cars. It's like, hey, here's this great Mazda hatchback. Like, what's it run on? They're like, we don't know yet. We're working on it. And then that included some really crazy stuff. Like they have like a 6-wheel Lexus LS van, like a luxury van. I mean, that almost certainly seems like it would be electric powered. Or the new Century, like Toyota spinning off the Century nameplate into like a new brand that's gonna be like Japanese Rolls Royce. And like that seems like it's a good candidate for an EV powertrain too, but probably they could also give it a V12. So yeah, we'll see where this stuff shakes out. We got some details, like some of these things are really fantastical. There's this great looking 4-door coupe from Mazda with a plug-in hybrid rotary engine. And also it can supposedly capture CO2 from the atmosphere. It's like, sure, man. That one's like, okay, we just give us the cool looking sedan and maybe the rotary engine, plug-in hybrid. But like, yeah, the carbon capture thing, like, okay, sure. I mean, you're taking that with a grain of salt too, I assume, right?
Yeah, this is one of the weirdest things I feel like about covering this industry specifically, is the concept cars, right? And it took me a little while to understand this, but like the car companies can just put out, they like make a design in the, in the R&D lab. They put out like one car and they just make all these claims about it. And they're like, it drives itself. It has level 5 autonomy. It shoots a drone out of the trunk. It captures carbon. And you're like, well, it doesn't actually do any of those things, right? It's like, it like conceptually does all this stuff. So yeah, you got to take all these things with a grain of salt. We've seen a lot of concepts that don't actually become anything real.
Yeah, or just don't end up looking that great. Like there was a electric STI sports sedan concept from Subaru. I'm a former WRX guy myself, so I'm excited for that one. But like, I hope they make it. I hope it looks as good as the concept. And Subaru's like designs never look as cool as their concept cars, so I'm already preconditioning myself to be disappointed on that. Definitely less news from Honda than we would have expected, honestly, because like they are preparing their own EV platform and like battery setup, and they have like a big tech push at CES. But I think with the post tax credits in America, like they definitely see they're slowing down a bit. So not a lot from those guys this time.
Yeah, Honda showed off an electric hot hatch, mainly destined for Japan and the UK. It also showed off what I thought was a really cool small SUV meant for India. We don't know if that's coming to the US yet. I kind of hope it does. It's like a smaller version, right, of the they released these 0 series prototypes, and this is like a kind of smaller, more approachably sized one that I think is really cool, but we don't know if we're getting it in the US.
Yeah, I like that thing too, because like the Zero Series, like it came out, it was like the design language, it kind of looks like a Lamborghini almost, and now like they took a lot of that and made it into like a normal, rational person car, and it's like, oh, that actually looks really cool. So, we'll see there. What is game changing, however, and what I want to talk about is the next Toyota Corolla, because this was a big deal. Toyota showed off a very striking and futuristic sedan concept version of the world's best-selling car, and announced that the next one is going to come in many forms. It'll be electric or hybrid or plug-in hybrid or gas, or maybe run on some kind of sustainable fuels. So it kind of supposedly will do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, this thing looks really good in a kind of out there sort of way. It looks like there have been a few of these other Lexus and Toyota concepts that have this like really angular, really futuristic design, and this is one of them. And the powertrain, I think, is probably the biggest deal, right? Toyota has said for a long time that it's focusing on this multi-pathway approach to the future of cars. So different types of fuel, different types of energy sources, and a Corolla that runs on a bunch of different stuff or a bunch of different fuels and energy sources is probably the biggest test of whether that multi-pathway approach can actually work, right?
Yeah, totally. And like a lot of automakers are doing this too. Like Mercedes has said that its future cars are going to be like, I think they said powertrain agnostic, or some cooler term they have for that. So it'll be gas, hybrid, or EV, and they'll all look pretty similar. A lot of them are baking in that flexibility now, but like doing that to a Corolla is a really big deal. Like this is not some fancy luxury car. This is like the every person affordable car that is sold on every corner of this planet, and like is kind of everything to everyone a little bit. And if they can really make it come in like all those different forms, like that'll be something special, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and purely from a volume and like a brand recognition standpoint, right? An electric Corolla would be enormous just for EVs in general. Like this is one of the top selling cars in the world. They sell like a bazillion of them. And so if they were like, hey, you can get your Corolla in hybrid or electric, it would probably be just on its own an enormous boost to EVs because people love Corollas.
Yeah.
So any details about what to expect or when this will actually go into production, or are we talking about just a concept for now, which happens a lot?
That I think it's just a concept for now, but like everything I read indicates like they're serious about the way it looks. No word on like range or battery size or what a hybrid powertrain will be. Like we know that Toyota's working on like a next generation like family of smaller, more efficient gas engines. So like I'm gonna assume it'll use that for sure, because they're gonna use those for everything. Like the EV part's the one that I'm most excited about. There's a lot of affordable options coming out soon from like Kia and Volkswagen and Renault and Ford and the Chinese OEMs too. And so like it wouldn't be a party without the Corolla. So I'm glad they're like doing something with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's hope they follow through with it. Toyota definitely has had a tendency to drop these cool electric concepts and then not necessarily do anything with them. I seem to remember you geeking out over, there was electric Tacoma looking truck, right? There was a electric like MR2 looking sort of mid-engine looking sports car. Both of those are nowhere to be found. And I remember there's this like sweet photo that we see all the time of I think it's Toyota's chairman standing in front of this room of like 25 different electric cars, and like how many of that was from a few years ago, how many of them have they actually made? Only a couple. But Toyota definitely has been kind of upping its game lately, right? There's the new BZ, there's the new BZ Woodland, there's the new CHR. So
yeah,
there's definitely a lot of they're definitely moving forward much more quickly on EVs now. So I don't think an electric Corolla in the next couple of years is out of the question. I think that's probably pretty likely, along with like probably an electric RAV4, let's say.
Yeah, they have stepped up, and like you can't deny they're printing money with their hybrid cars now, which like, to be fair, like that is less gas used, less emissions on the roads. So like they're like, from a financial perspective, like their strategy has worked. So like but they're also down in China, and I think they know that they've got to compete on sub level with EVs, but like everything they've done so far has worked out. So we'll see how it goes. Development of the 13th generation Corolla. 13 generations. Man, this thing's Thing's been around. It's underway right now, and Toyota indicates some version of this will become a reality. So I'm excited about it. Also biased. My first car was a Corolla. Probably a lot of people's first car was a Corolla.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I wanna move on to Slate in a sec, but I think I want to end this with a question for you. Like, what do you think about, there's been a lot of debate around the multi-pathway thing, right? Like when EVs were kind of all the rage, when there was a lot more hype around EVs, like even a couple of years ago, a lot of people were kind of dunking on Toyota for saying, hey, like you guys are slow on EVs. Hybrids are obviously not the answer. Toyota kind of stuck to its guns and was like, no, we don't think EVs are going to be that huge that quickly. We're going to double down on hybrids and plug-in hybrids. And over the last year or two, as EV sales have slowed down, and probably especially as the policy stuff has kind of fallen away in the US, they and a lot of their proponents have taken this victory lap, right? They're like, yeah, we were right. See, like EVs aren't the answer, the only answer. Hybrids are going to stick around for a long time. So what do you think? Like, do you think that they have been kind of vindicated? Do you think they probably should have been investing in EVs all along? What's your read?
Yeah, the answer could be yes to all of that, actually. Because it's like, I tend to think it's like if they had what they're going to have now, like a couple of like serious EVs, or if like the BZ4X had come out of the gate like really strong, like no one would have been saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that like, I can't prove this with academic studies or data, but just in my own experience, I think that like EVs being in the news all the time and like being in the public consciousness last few years, the reaction I heard from so many people, emails and people I know in my life, people I talk to, it's just like, I'm not ready for an EV yet. A hybrid would be good though. Like, I think like EVs kind of help the hybrid awareness, and like certainly Toyota like had the product to match it. Like almost their entire US lineup is hybrid now, at least, which is really cool. So like, I do think they kind of benefited from like awareness of what electrification is and does. The other thing that I think is funny too, when you talk about like Toyota's multi-pathway approach, it's like the future is many different things. It could be gas, it could be hybrid, hydrogen, electricity. It's like, well, it also helps to be Toyota and to be like as massive as they are, and to have like the R&D arm that they have to be able to do that. Like almost no one can match that. So it does play to their strengths a bit, but what they've been doing so far is working, and I really do hope that they come out with some really first-rate EVs. Like I do think there's a market for that. I remember one of the times like someone on our staff, I think it was Mac, had a BZ4X they were charging. And like somebody came up to us, I'm like, a Toyota makes one of those things? Like that's not just like some bullshit from Elon Musk. Like that's like a real company? Like, wow, okay, maybe this has legs, Like that's the power of that. That's the power of that brand. Like that like changes things because people know how serious it is. So if they get serious here, they're definitely gonna win.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I would say the same thing. I think they just the brand power alone. Like I think a lot of the EV like nerds and advocates will say, "Oh, Toyota's going to get left behind," but like most people don't care. Most people, when Toyota comes out with that like banger of an EV in a couple of years, they, I think everybody will forget that Toyota was ever behind, and all these studies show that like people really want an EV from Toyota almost more than any other brand. So whenever they do that, I think they're going to clean up.
Yeah, and like even if like BYD or someone showed up in America tomorrow, like you got to get up real early in the morning and take down Toyota. Like that is just not an easy task. Well, let's pivot a bit and go from like the world's largest automaker to I think the world's newest and smallest, because it's just getting started and has sold none vehicles yet. But Slate Auto is the Jeff Bezos backed company that's promising a hyper stripped down, hyper affordable electric truck. But there's a lot of unanswered questions about this thing. Like, what will it really cost? Now the tax credits are going away. Do people really want such a stripped out and bare bones EV? And, there's other things we're wondering here about this thing too, right?
Yeah. Will people just walk up and steal your body panels since they're all held on with hex bolts and like easy to DIY replace? That's what a lot of people are asking.
There's tons of criminals just walking around with hex wrenches, man. I see it all the time. And those little mini ones you get at IKEA, like you have a toolbox full of those things from all the crap you bought at IKEA over the years. You can just take that and just like strip down a Slate. You'd have a whole business going, like a little chop shop just from IKEA stuff. We should ask about that next time. But now, But now owners will have the answer to at least one big question, which is where can they get these things fixed?
Yeah, that's right. So DIY, if you know anything about Slate, DIY is a big part of their vision. The company says you'll be able to do a lot of the work on these things yourself, including because a lot of stuff is just held together by Allen bolts. A lot of these customizations you can do, in your garage. But people will need somewhere to take their trucks when something goes wrong, or if they just don't want to do that work themselves. And Slate announced this week that it's partnering up with a company called RepairPal, which has a network of 4,000 shops across the country. This is not a chain. It's not a Pep Boys or a Firestone. It is RepairPal certifies shops based on a bunch of metrics like their pricing, the experience of their mechanics, and other things. And so the idea is basically Slate's saying you can trust these shops to do repairs and also to install Slate accessories like that sweet SUV kit that adds the bench seat in the back and the roof if you don't want to do that kind of stuff yourself.
Yeah, and RepairPal is owned by Yelp, the ubiquitous restaurant rating app, which I didn't know until we sat down to do this, which is super interesting. And this is different from what Tesla and Rivian did, right? Because they also came out of the blue, did not build out a dealer network, and thus did not have a service and repair network inherent to what they do. So, like, what do we know about that?
Right, this is different. Just like Tesla and Rivian and Lucid, Slate is selling cars direct to consumer, right? So it's not having franchise dealerships. And yeah, they're not going to build out their own dedicated service network like Tesla and Rivian did. Basically, I talked to a Slate executive about this, Jeremy Snyder. He's their chief commercial officer, who's also spent like a decade at Tesla. And I asked him, I was like, is part of this the fact that you and a lot of the people who work at Slate worked at these companies like Tesla and Rivian? You saw from the outside or from the inside how hard it is to build up this service infrastructure, the struggles. And he was like, yeah, like it's one of the hardest things to do as a new car company.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's one problem to just build the cars and build them at volume. But another one of the really big challenges is building out that physical infrastructure of actually servicing the cars, because it costs a ton. It takes a lot of time, and you need to have this crazy coverage. If you want to sell cars across the country, like, you need to have service centers all over the country. And when Ford rolls out a new car, it has all that built in because it has like thousands of dealerships everywhere. You can find one, no problem. So Slate's kind of doing a little bit of a different thing, right? They're kind of taking a little bit of a page from the legacy playbook of saying, look, we'll build the car, but we're not going to service it ourselves. But it's also doing the Tesla thing of selling them direct to consumer. So yeah, what do you think about this plan? What do you think about Slate's plan to service cars?
I guess I have a couple questions too. Are they going to, Slate going to train any like mobile dispatchers, mobile mechanics the way Rivian does? Is that part of the plan?
They haven't talked about that. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these like RepairPal shops have that, but they haven't talked about that.
And I guess the plan is to make sure these RepairPal stores are like Slate certified, so that they're not just on the app, but also these are people that know what they're doing with this vehicle, right?
Right. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And like, you'll be able to, sort of like a Tesla sort of situation. These RepairPal has like an app, so you can like easily schedule service and that kind of thing. So they're trying to make it easy while also not building this stuff themselves and doing it themselves, which makes some sense to me.
Yeah, I think it sounds really clever, actually. It's, I've heard this from a lot of like Rivian owners in particular. Like, I love the car. It can be a pain to get fixed, and also God help you if you get into a wreck. Like their argument often, these EV startups, like, well, EVs need fewer parts, they need less maintenance, they don't need repairs as much. It's like, okay, that's true, but also things do break sometimes. Like physical parts do break, and you need that stuff fixed. So like, if they're able to like train people to be like an in-network outsourcing thing that can still be scheduled via app or whatever, it kind of sounds like they've like nailed the best of both worlds, maybe, as long as they can ensure consistency and proper training on all of these shops. Like, I kind of live in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York, and like I know some great mechanics around here, but also I feel like, honestly, if you wheeled a Slate truck into their shops, they'd be like, what in the hell is this and what do I do with it? So I really hope that they are training these mechanics as seriously as they say they are, you know?
Yeah, but at the same time, like, as long as it's not high voltage stuff, right? Which they say some of the shops, like a subset of the shops, will be able to do high voltage repairs. Like, a lot of the other stuff is just like any other car, or it's a version of what you find in any other car, right? Suspension, things like that. Like, any shop can probably learn how to do that on any car. Yeah, I think it's smart in the sense that, like, Tesla and Rivian have gotten all this flack for how they handle service. Like, great, you have the service centers. But ever since I've been covering this industry, Tesla owners specifically have been like, I can't, like, sometimes I'll try to book a service appointment and it's like, it takes a month. They don't have, you know, cars for me to drive while my car's in the shop. Like, they're building out the infrastructure, but there are still places in the country where you have to, like, drive like 3 hours to the nearest Tesla service center. So, like, they've done a lot of work here, and they've also done, like you said, the mobile service to kind of fill in the gaps. But Tesla's basically been playing catch up on service ever since they started selling cars in high volumes, like the Model 3 and the Model Y. So I can understand why Slate's like, yeah, we're not going to mess around with doing that ourselves.
Super interesting to see where that goes. Yeah. Great idea from those folks.
And I guess last thing we'll just mention real quick. They also mentioned this week that the Slate truck is going to get Tesla supercharger access, which is something that we pretty much knew because it has a NACS port. Yeah. It has the Tesla NACS port.
Yeah.
But now they've officially said, yes, when you get the truck, it will have supercharger access, which would have been hilarious if it didn't.
Yeah, it would have been the funniest thing ever. Like, it has a NACS port and cannot be used at any Tesla chargers, like right away or ever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. Thank God that's not the case. We had a great story from Kevin Williams recently. Like the NACS, you know, being, you know, like NACS chargers everywhere isn't like this magic silver bullet to fix charging like we thought. And he has some great points, but also, like, I've really come to prefer the cars that have the native Tesla plug. It's nicer to use the slimmer one than the big bulky CCS deal. So, like, whatever I get next, like, if that's the future, like, I'm very happy with that, you know?
Yeah. So let's talk about a company that is, you could say, an EV startup that's on the complete opposite end of the spectrum of Slate. Lucid, with its high-end and super advanced cars like the Air and Gravity. And this company is now announcing big plans for level 4 autonomy in personal vehicles.
Yeah, this is a big deal, and like a real shot across the bow from Lucid Motors, which I think makes amazing cars, but can sometimes struggle with, like, its value proposition a little bit. And I think some of that became a little bit clearer this week. So specifically, Lucid wants to be the first company to sell you a self-driving car you can truly own. And we're going to talk about what level 4, level 2 means in a second, but, like, not some, like, driver assistance crap or, like, you know, hands on the steering wheel but eyes on the road, or hands up, but, like, full-blown Waymo grade, take you almost anywhere autonomously vehicle that you can own. And this is something that the auto industry has been dreaming about for decades, but has never accomplished. And they've got some pretty high-tech help to get it done, right?
Yeah, so it's a pretty big shift from what Lucid's done thus far, what a lot of other companies are doing. You know, Lucid has been developing driver assistance, like hands on or off the wheel, highway driving assistance in-house. It has a thing called Dream Drive. But now it's partnering up with Nvidia to take that driver assistance to the next level, to eventually get it to this level 4 autonomy like you get in a Waymo. It says that its next generation midsize models, which start rolling out late next year, will come with Nvidia's latest autonomous driving hardware, plus a whole sensor suite, cameras, LiDAR, and radars, and Nvidia's AV software to tie it all together. So basically, like, they have to integrate this into their cars. They have to do work to make sure that the Nvidia kind of stack works in that midsize car. But the IP, like the hardware and the software to make this autonomous driving and this driver assistance happen, is coming from Nvidia, which is a really interesting partnership.
Yeah, especially in this case because like Lucid, it's always been a point of pride with them that they develop so much in-house.
Yeah.
Like the super efficient electric motors and like their own software. Like they really, it's a big deal that company's so vertically integrated. But now it's like leaning really hard on like this outside partner, right?
Yeah. So thanks to this Nvidia tech, the midsize model they say will launch with what it calls, and again, these like SAE levels of automation can be so annoying, especially when car companies kind of just make up their own versions of it. But they say level 2 plus plus capability will come in these cars, which they basically define as point to point driving, sort of like you'd get in Tesla full self driving, right? So level 2 meaning you are still in control of the car. Anything level 2 or below means you have to be there at all times paying attention. But with this, like you'll be able to get in the car, put in an address, and the car will do all the driving to that address. And they also say the existing Gravity SUV will get that level 2 plus plus capability sometime late 2026.
Yeah, just as an aside, like these names are getting out of hand. These are like the SAE, formerly the Society of Automotive Engineers, like came up with the designations, and now you've got car companies just like making shit up, basically. And I have to assume there's somebody in the SAE that every time they hear level 2 plus plus, they like throw a wrench across the room in anger, or like need to take a personal day. And
Yeah.
I'm waiting for like the day where it's like, oh well, this is double secret level 3. But only in Nevada and only on Tuesdays. It's like we're just
level
it doesn't
level
mean
3 minus.
It doesn't mean anything. Stop making stuff up. Yeah, but no, this is a very big deal because like what we're saying is like the Gravity is going to get even better. They're saying the Gravity is going to get even better at autonomy and ADAS. And the next car they come out with, this is going to be like full blown autonomous capable and owned by a human being, like not a Robotaxi, but like owned by whoever can afford it, right?
Yeah, so they're saying that the level 4 driving, so basically the Gravity will come with that level 2 plus plus. That seems like that's kind of where it's going to max out according to what we know right now, what Lucid is saying right now. But the level 4 driving, that means autonomous, basically just like a Waymo. Under certain conditions, it'll be able to do everything for you without human supervision. That'll be coming to that mid-size SUV that's coming out next year. Not immediately. It'll start with that level 2, and then over a couple of years, a spokesperson said, they'll gradually move up to that level 4 driving.
Man, I'm not sure what to think of this, but like if it was just Lucid on its own, not to diminish Lucid, which is an amazing engineering firm, but like, okay, sure. But like Nvidia is as serious as you get. So like and the fact that they're really partnering with that company for this, I think is interesting. Like you kind of geeked out on this one earlier. We were talking like, what do you find so interesting about this development?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll talk a little bit about, this was part of a kind of larger, swath of announcements. This just wasn't one thing. Nvidia is doing a lot more around self-driving than it was in the past, and it announced that this week at its GTC conference. So basically, Nvidia has been working on autonomous stuff for years, mainly kind of at a lower level, it seems. The computing platforms that help run the systems in these cars, the computers that companies can use to train these models. Now it's going way bigger than before. This Lucid thing is just kind of a part of that. At the conference this week, Jensen Huang announced NVIDIA Drive AGX Hyperion 10, which NVIDIA is pretty good at their names.
That's almost as good as level 2 plus plus.
Yeah, exactly. Which it calls a reference production computer and sensor set architecture that makes any vehicle level 4 ready. So basically, like in plain English, as far as I can understand, this is a standardized architecture of computers, an operating system, and sensors that any car company can build into their cars, and that any autonomous vehicle company can like design systems around. The idea is to speed up development of autonomous cars by having this kind of standardized platform that different players in this space can kind of all rely on and say, okay, if I make a system, it'll work on this car. If I make a car, it'll work with a bunch of these systems, which seems like actually a really smart move. I'm kind of surprised that hasn't really happened yet.
Interesting. So where are we going to see this kind of technology deployed first?
Right. So there were a few other announcements on that front too. So as we discussed, Lucid is going to use it. Nvidia also announced a partnership with Uber to help it put 100,000 robotaxis on the road. That's going to scale up starting in 2027. Those two companies are also working together on what they call a robotaxi data factory to aid autonomous vehicle development across like all these different partners that Uber and Nvidia are working with. So it's kind of this like joint effort to speed up robotaxis. And there's more. Uber is working with Nvidia, Stellantis, and Foxconn, which famously is the Taiwanese company that assembles iPhones, to also deploy robotaxis. So these will be Stellantis vehicles that use this new Nvidia autonomous platform and Nvidia's self-driving software. And there will be at least 5,000 of those, and they're going to start rolling out in the US, but they'll be rolling out globally.
I'll be mean here. It's like we've got Uber, Nvidia, Foxconn, and Stellantis. I don't want to say which one I think might be the weak link in that group, but I know we're all thinking it.
Yeah.
Best of luck to them. No, this is crazy. Like this kind of flew under the radar a little bit because like one thing I've noticed just like about like covering this stuff at InsideEVs and like paying attention to things like internet traffic, what our readers care about. Audiences still care more about like cars themselves than they do about these kinds of developments. Maybe it makes sense, but I think this stuff is hard to conceptualize still. Like our top story last couple of days has been the Toyota Corolla. In some ways, this is as big an announcement, like technologically and in the scope of things. It's different, but it's huge because it's like we're talking about like Nvidia kind of taking a shot at Waymo here, which is like game changing, right? In like some really big ways. So this is a it's kind of flying under the radar unless you're in the AV space, but I think this is gonna be one of those things that we like look back on as perhaps a watershed moment. I mean, do you agree, or am I taking it too far there?
No, I do think so. I think it did fly under the radar partially because this stuff is a little bit dense and hard to understand. But it does seem like it might be kind of a big shift in kind of the power players in this space, right? Like Waymo is the current leader. It develops the autonomous systems. It's been deploying these cars all over the US more and more and more. Now you have these other companies, Nvidia, which is making the hardware and also some software. You have Uber, which is really trying to build up a big fleet of these cars. So this Nvidia Uber stuff might end up being, I think, a really big deal in the autonomous space.
We got to get Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang on the podcast someday. That'd be a hell of a get.
Hell yeah, we should.
We should.
That would raise the InsideEVs market cap by about $1 billion. I think
by $1 trillion. No, he can come on. He can come on and announce some other like insane sick name like processor. Like this is our new sword of God chip that we're gonna give to everybody.
That's pretty good.
It'll have level 10 autonomy. Like.
Yeah, I just made it up.
It does your grocery shopping for you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think like this is all really exciting or interesting. I do think that there still is I think there's execution risk, right? Like besides Waymo, nobody's really been able to deploy autonomous cars at any kind of big scale safely. So, Uber and Nvidia are trying to put these 100,000 robotaxis on the road. Like we don't, and Lucid is trying to put this in personal cars. Like who knows how much that's going to cost? Who knows actually how long it's going to take to do that? I think a couple of years after the Midsize launches, which is what a spokesperson says, seems a little bit optimistic to me. That means fully self-driving car you can buy before like the end of the decade. So yeah, I think still a lot of unknowns and big questions around this because self-driving is a really, really, really hard problem to solve, right? Ask Elon Musk about that.
And yeah, like a good example of that is like General Motors announcing that like level 3 autonomy, which is hands off, eyes off, coming to Super Cruise in 2028. And like they kind of implied maybe it'll do, it's gonna be highway only first, but like maybe it'll do as many highways as like standard Super Cruise, maybe not. Like they're not sure yet. Like that's a rational timeline in my mind. And like saying this is all like end of decade fully driverless stuff, like yeah, like then you start to get into like the Tesla ambitions that sound good to Wall Street, but tend to be divorced from reality. So we'll see what they can do, but I'm not counting any of these players out.
Yeah, and I guess like last thing I'll say, and I think we should do like probably a whole episode about this. Something I've been thinking about a lot is like there was this period of insane hype around autonomous vehicles in like the 2010s, 2010s, when it seemed like this was like right around the corner. All these companies were just like raising all this money. And then there was this real period recently, like very recently, of strong disillusionment. Like early 2020s saw the shuttering of a lot of these companies. A lot of these startups realized that, and car makers realized that this was going to take a lot more time and a lot more money than they bargained for. You had GM shut down Cruise, Ford and Volkswagen shut down Argo AI. There were others. And now you're really seeing this explosion, maybe driven by the fact that Waymo is actually like kind of taking off. Like they are doing hundreds of thousands of rides a week across the US. You're really seeing a big step change in a lot of these car makers and other players betting hard on autonomous vehicles again, because I think the technology is actually kind of starting to get there. So it's really interesting to see that bounce back.
Yeah, I think it's AI, and I think it's just the sheer amount of like money being like fire hosed into boosting computing power that we're seeing right now that's like making this stuff possible. But like, yes, we should explore that. All right, now it's time for Plus Minus, our segment where we talk about who's up and who's down in the EV world. Tim, who you got for me?
I've got a couple of minuses, and I don't know if you've been seeing, there have been layoffs kind of across industries this week.
Like a lot,
like a lot. And that also hit our world. So Rivian is laying off 600 people. The company said that it largely involved restructurings of its marketing, vehicle operations, and sales/delivery teams. Not great news for Rivian, for those people who work there. GM also laid off over 3,000 workers this week, with those who make EVs and batteries hit particularly hard. That one really does seem to be tied to like the general sort of EV slowdown. But yeah, we're definitely seeing a bit of a shakeup in the auto world.
That's a shame. And then the broader ones at Amazon and Meta too. So it is unfortunately that time of year. And there were some
that I was like, oh my God. It was like, I think it was like UPS. I'm going to get the number wrong, but it was like they laid off like 15,000 people this year or something. And I was like, I didn't even know they employed that many people, you know? It's 14,000.
Yeah. My heart goes out to anybody sincerely dealing with that right now or ever, or especially like right with the holiday season coming up. On a more positive note, I have a plus this week. I give it to Ford, which unveiled the Home Power Management Program. It's also a cool announcement, kind of flew under the radar after a busy week. But like what Ford is letting F-150 Lightning owners do in select markets, if they have a participating utility, store up cheaper electricity for your Lightning during the day. So electricity is cheaper during the day than at night. It can, like, when electricity's cheaper because everyone's home and like making dinner and, playing video games and recording their EV podcasts. The Lightning can then power your home or put energy back into the grid. And like they're doing some really cool stuff with the Lightning at Ford on energy management and home energy storage and grid support. It's also one of those topics that's like, it's a little geeky, it's not sexy yet, but it's assuredly the future. Because like if you have enough EVs everywhere, like working with the grid in real time to be like virtual power plants and to support houses or neighborhoods or the grid itself during power outages, like that's a really big deal. Like that's transformative. Mm-hmm. So I think they're laying the groundwork for that. And they were also like, look, we're at Ford, we're expecting EV stuff to slow down. Next few years, we've got these affordable $30,000 electric trucks coming out, and they're going to be able to do all this stuff too. So like that's gonna be pretty rad if a bunch of those are out there and doing what the Lightnings can do for like half the price. So cool. I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, totally. Maybe if they wanted more coverage, they should have named it the Home Power Hyperion Plus
Yeah.
Plus program. That would have
Thor
helped.
plus, yeah,
Yeah.
level 25, yeah. You know, you gotta lean into this stuff, man. All right, well, thanks for listening to the Plugged In podcast from Inside EVs. We'll be back next Friday. Today's show is produced by Michael Perkins and brought to you by the Motorsport Network.
Make sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe to the Inside EVs YouTube channel, and check out all our latest coverage on InsideEVs.com. See you next time.